We're moving on in our video series to mixed numbers. Probably the easiest way to understand mixed numbers is to look at the representation in circles. 3 1/2 is the same as 3 whole circles and another half. We could actually write that as 3 plus a half. And 2 5/6 is 2 wholes and 5/6. 5/6 is almost another one, but not quite. But we could write that with a plus sign, 2 and 5/6. And suppose we wanted to add the two quantities. Well, it's not all that difficult, really. We have 3 wholes and we have 2 whole circles. That makes a total of 5 whole circles. And we have a half, and we have 5/6. The only thing we need to do at this point is to combine our fractions. Well, we're going to need a common denominator, and luckily for us, if we multiply the 2 by a 3, we'll get the 6. So let's go ahead and write them with a common denominator. 2 times 3 is 6, and 1 times 3 is 3. And we're going to add that to 5/6. So our total is 5 and 8/6. Now right away you should notice that 8/6 is an improper fraction. 6/6 is a whole circle. So if we change that, instead of having 5, having 6, that would take 1 whole circle, or 6/6 away from that, and leave us with 2/6. One more check, make sure everything's right here. 6 and, oh look, this is even, that's even. We need to take out a factor of 2 from the numerator and the denominator. So divide this by 2, and you get 1. Divide that by 2, and you get 3. That's our final answer. When you look at 5 2/3 and 7/9, the same thing should come to mind. You could say this is 5 2/3 and then just treat the fractions separately. Let's write down the 5 so we don't forget about it, but then over here, let's figure out what would be our common denominator. 3 and 9. Well, if I multiply 3 by 3, then I would get 9. I would have 6 ninths and 7 ninths. So our total here is 5 and 13 ninths. And then we check and make sure there's nothing else we can do, but immediately you should see that this is improper. 9 ninths is a whole, so you have 6 and then 4 left over. 4 and 9 make 13, so we pulled 1 out, made it a whole, and we're left with 4 ninths. This wouldn't be too difficult to subtract that way either. 5 take away 1 is 4, and then you just have 3/4. Make that a plus so that's clear. 3/4 take away 1/8. Now, 4ths are easily turned into 8ths by multiplying by 2, and you have 4 plus 6/8 take away 1/8. That's 4 and 5/8. And that is as simple as it gets. But here's a problem where you don't have enough to take away from, and for that we're going to use a little different method. In the situation where you're going to end up with a negative mixed number, negative fractions, that kind of thing, there is another way of combining fractions through addition and subtraction, and that is to convert them both into improper fractions. That's easy enough to do. Here, if we're going to have an improper fraction, you can see we have thirds, and so we're going to want to convert into thirds. There are 3/3 in every whole. That's why we can multiply 1 times 3 and get part of the improper fraction. 1 times 3 is 3, and then you have 2 more pieces, so there's 5 thirds in total. Here you have 2 whole circles, each one cut into 5 pieces. 2 times 5 is 10, and 1 more makes 11. Now if we're going to subtract those, then we're going to need a common denominator. So let's get rid of all this. And our common denominator is going to be 15. There's no common factor in 3 and 5, so we're going to have 15ths. And 3 times 5 gave us our 15. So 5 times 5 is 25. And here, in order to get 15, I had to multiply by 3. So I have 33. 25 minus 33 is 8. Negative. And that's your answer. Without the picture in your mind that if you have 3 1/2, to convert this to an improper fraction, it's all going to be halves. There are 6 halves in 3 whole circles, and there's 1 more. So there's 7 halves. And you're going to take away, well, here's 5 whole circles cut into thirds. That would be 15 pieces there, and 2 more make 17 thirds. But you need a common denominator, and there's no common factors with 2 or 3, 2 and 3. And so the smallest common denominator is going to be a 6. And we multiplied the 2 by 3, so we do the same to the 7. We multiplied the 3 by 2, so we do the same to the 17. And we get 21 and 34. Taking the difference between 21 and 34, we get 13, 6, and they're negative. With that information in mind, now you're ready to add or subtract any kind of fraction, and it's time to practice.